Today's podcast is brought to you by Kentucky Farm Bureau Insurance. If your property gets damaged by a storm, it's nice to know there's a Kentucky Farm Bureau insurance agent in your hometown who's committed to making things right. Rain or shine, you can count on the great coverage and personal service you expect from Kentucky's insurance company. To request a free quote, find your local KFB insurance agent at mykfbagent.com. Kentucky Farm Bureau, big on commitment. Hey, Matt, how's it going?
Going good. It's Halloween is past, and now we're transitioning to other things in life. Halloween's always a fun time. My kids are too old, so that part's kind of over in a way, but we still have fun with Halloween. But now we move on. There's lots of cool things coming up.
So this year, I gotta tell you something. For the first year of my entire life as an LSU football fan, I think I agree with my husband in a very early point in the football season that I think I also have declared it's basketball season because it's tough.
Yeah.
We fired a coach at LSU. We're not doing very good. I don't think we're going to make the playoffs. I don't think we got a shot at the SEC championship. And normally this is the point in the year where I am chuckling under my breath at my in-laws like, your football team's terrible. Mine also is terrible. And then UK, my alma mater, goes and beats the number one preseason team in the country.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, no. Mm-hmm. I think I have officially become a Kentuckian.
Yeah.
It's basketball season.
Basketball season.
What, like, as a Louisville fan, I know you guys lost to Kansas, but it was an exhibition game. Mm-hmm. I mean, are you there? Because, I mean, we got to get in tune because the game's coming up. The game.
Well, U of L's been good at a lot of things. A lot of times.
Humble brag.
So this is kind of normal to be pretty all right at football because they're never amazing.
You guys did beat Miami.
Yeah, and we'll see how good Miami is. That's kind of my perspective.
TBD.
We really want Miami to be good.
Mm-hmm.
We really want. Everyone wants that, but every year it's kind of they're all right. And then basketball's been weird. A lot of that's been a little up and down. But I do think there's good excitement. I don't overanalyze an exhibition game. You never know what the game plan going into that was.
Right,
Kansas might have been like, we're going in there and playing exactly like we want to, and UVL might be like, yeah, we'll see what happens. But who knows? But I mean, the big game's coming up. The Cats and the Cards.
And I know if you're an avid listener, which I'm sure all of you have been listening since the moment we started this podcast, obviously. We've talked about this before. We have our thoughts about this game being in November.
It's very early. I don't know.
I don't love that.
I like the idea of having the game play not around like bowl games and football, like kind of like
because we are football
Christmas
people
and all that. Like I know that's where it's traditionally been, but I do understand like maybe not then. I've always kind of thought it'd be really cool if they like played each other right in the middle of conference play.
Just toss one in there,
just like right in the middle, just make it nuts. That would be cool. Also, I have I think a great idea that as a Louisville fan, you watch a lot of ACC because they're in that conference. Duke and North Carolina play each other twice a year, home and home. Just saying. Everybody's trying to find good non-conference games. Mm-hmm. How cool would it be if you did like a November game somewhere
and then threw one in mid-conference play?
Mid-February, you do another. Ooh. Is there any rules you can't play somebody twice in non-conference?
I don't know.
I think that'd be super tough. And it wouldn't be the whole, well, you got us at home and all, all that. You'd say, hey, you can win twice. Kentucky's kind of been kicking Louisville's butt. They could beat Louisville twice in a year. Wouldn't that be fun? Or vice versa, right? That the rivalry element. I think that'd be pretty cool. They're never going to be in the same conference, so it's not like that. It's going to be forced.
Could the state handle it? Would we implode? Would Kentucky as a whole just implode if that moment happened twice in one season?
You lose twice. There's other states that deal with this. They have double whammy games.
So what do you do for that game? Do you have like a thing? Like do you have do you get with a group? Do you do family? Is there like a thing?
Yeah, we so my wife's side's blue. My wife's whole side is.
You're a house
blue
divided. I did not know this.
And she she's into it. She's a Kentucky fan. And then my side's red. And we got a bunch of red folks. So we don't necessarily get those gangs together.
Understandably.
If that makes sense. But I have watched it over on her side and got picked on the whole time. And it has, the other way around a little bit. I remember years ago when they played in the Final Four for the first time. UK ultimately won the whole thing. But I was real excited, and I think Kentucky fans are actually a little like, this would be the worst. Like, we got a great team and lose to Louisville would be awful. So I was like, hey, we should have a big, Cards Cats, get a pot of chili going, do this big thing. So I invited all these people, and no Kentucky fans came, right? And what's great about your spouse is they're very honest. My wife has looked at me. She goes, they'd have to stand next to you while maybe losing. And I go, well, what's that supposed to mean? She kind of gives me the side eye. Like,
Yep.
So yeah, it's hard to like really do it. It usually just ends up like one side or the other. You can't really have like a rivalry game. But yeah, we typically it's usually also on the weekend. That's the other thing. It's weird. It's like on a Tuesday or something like that. I'm like, Tuesday? It's like I can't have.
We have a floating holiday at Farm Bureau.
The UK Louisville game.
It might be the day after though, not the day of. It's the day after, so we can sleep in the next day and recover, win or loss.
But that's the fun day when you can rub it in, though.
Okay, so can I have half of my floating holiday on the day
everybody
of?
Comes in at noon so that you can give each other grief about what happened.
Lick your wounds or prep yourself to be the worst and then just show up. So, okay, here's my funny on this. So, obviously, people know this now. My family's from Louisiana. So, we are Kentucky fans literally on proximity. Like, we live in the state. My parents' paycheck comes from the University of Kentucky. They work in the College of Ag.
Yeah, you went there.
So, I went there, and my dad's bosses in the past were like, your kids don't even know what basketball is. Like, this is a travesty. They live in the state. So, like, we've been really pushed into this, okay? But we're not as diehard. Like, I have married into a true diehard family. I understand that. This game used to happen while we were in Louisiana. We always went between Christmas and New Year's. This game would happen while we were down there pretty often. And if you think we don't get it enough, like, at least we watched it. My grandparents were like, well, that's rude. Like, we're not going to turn on the sports game. Like, your family's here. Well, like, why would we turn on if it's not LSU playing football? And so they would turn it off. And the first year my husband came with me, then boyfriend, I don't think fiance yet, he was like, are we going to be able to watch this game? And I was like, yeah, I do think like that you're a guest, and so they're going to feel different. But no, for me, it was very much like, no, you're a grandchild. Like, be respectful. Go visit your cousins. Go outside. Like, go talk to them. And me and my brother, when we were both in school at UK, were like, oh my gosh, like, we must watch this game. So now it's very comical. We're grown and we can have a little more say or put our phones on our lap and watch it slowly. It's funny, but it is, if you have been born and raised here, it doesn't matter which color you wear. That game matters. You cannot even care about sports, and you know that game is happening. I bet Austin even cares about that game.
The anxiety about the game, it's one of those things where, like, it's good that they play, and they should always play, in my opinion. But, like, it's also like, I just wish this didn't happen. It's like, so I'm a Western grad, as folks know, and they've played each other, and it's a weird thing being a fan of this and then going to school here and being growing into a fan as a Western guy, and I'm like, they should play each other, but then when they do, I was like, I wish they weren't playing each other.
Yeah, this hurts. Both sides of this hurt.
Yeah, and I talk enough that I get a lot of grief when Kentucky beats Louisville in anything. So
yeah,
and I'm asking for it. I mean, look, I know that I'm asking for it. So, but yeah, it's a good thing. I think that's what makes sports great. I think we're potentially losing a lot of that with how college is going now. They're just doing a lot of crazy things, but a lot of rivalries have died because of some of the changes. But I'm glad that they've seemed to the effort is to keep this game in all the different sports, and I know it matters. The cross game matters.
Right.
And I think that's really cool to have those rivalries. But yeah, so I look forward to it. I think it's going to be good. They're both good.
Yeah.
I think they're both actually good. I know that preseason exhibition games may not have been perfect, but I think they're both actually very good and could cause a lot of trouble in the tournament. And when they're healthy and they're ready, this should be a fun year. And so we'll see what happens. It's at the Yum this year. So
the Yum.
We'll see if that matters at all.
So speaking of, you ready?
Oh God.
Trying not to lose traditions and things like this in sports. We have a guest today.
Nice.
That coordinates a program to try to make sure we don't lose the tradition and the land and the farmland that we need to continue the agriculture tradition in rural communities.
Yes. That was really good.
Thank you.
That was really good.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think our guest today is a known person in agriculture policy stuff through the years. Has really been a big part of the initiative it's been 2-something years we say the podcast, which I didn't think that is
Yeah,
true.
it'll be year 2 officially in April. Like we're almost there.
Yeah. So, but we're talking about Farmland Transition Initiative today, and we have the lady that's helping in a big way with the Aleta bots, and I think folks, she's super likable. She's passionate about it, and I think people will enjoy today's conversation. So
yeah, and if you're worried, oh no, I don't want to listen to tax law or too much policy, we don't do that till the end. So the beginning is all this random interesting stuff you didn't know you wanted to know about Aleta, her farm, her time on the hill, really cool stuff. So
but we made taxes very interesting.
Because we're here, and it had to get interesting, or else we were just gonna be like, so let's switch this. All right, so without further ado, we're gonna get y'all to the conversation. I'm Renee Carrico.
And I'm Matt Hilton.
Let's get rural. But yeah, the sun came out today, so that was nice to see.
Yeah.
And then I walked in on a Friday, and there was a group of YF&R kids here. Kids, they're not kids, they're young adults. They're literally my age. And I was like, we got to work today. This is a working Friday.
Yeah.
Sun's out, people are here.
Stuff going on a Friday. Yeah, they're apparently at some point during this recording going to swing by the studio area. We give a lot of tours, which is, that's cool. We'll show off the cool space. So yeah, we might have people staring at us while we're doing this. So.
I'm really happy that you're here for this, Aleta. This is great.
I'm excited.
Thanks for being here. So I think a lot of our listeners probably know who you are, but maybe some don't. So tell us a little bit about your background and how you came. Why are you here today? What are we talking about?
Why are we here today?
Yeah.
So a lot of people know me as the project coordinator for the Farmland Transition Initiative, which of course I work with Renee and many other people in the building on this initiative to keep Kentucky farmland in the hands of active producers. And I've been working on that project for almost 2 years now. Prior to that, I ran the Kentucky Center for Ag and Rural Development, which is a nonprofit. And that's where a lot of people know me from because we work with farmers and agribusinesses on business plans and that kind of things. Originally from Menifee County. Grew up on a farm there. Live in Menifee County now on a farm. My husband and I farm. And did a stint in D.C. working on the Hill for 10 years. So that's kind of who I am.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
so for those that may be like me before I got to Central Kentucky, where the heck is Menifee County?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked. Everybody actually should know where Menifee County is. We are the county that is to the north of the Red River Gorge. A lot of people know where the gorge is.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
So I always use that as an identifier. We're to the north of the gorge, so we're the northern Red, and we're to the south of Cave Run Lake. So we're really right in the middle there between those two natural features.
Very nice.
So, a lot of ridges. We're in the foothills, basically. Mm-hmm. And so I grew up on a ridge where we raised cattle and tobacco and produce. So it's a lot different landscape than a lot of other areas of the state.
Yeah, being from Princeton, I don't know if I know a single human being that can say, I grew up on a ridge.
Right?
There's 0 ridges.
You don't
Zero ridges around Princeton, Kentucky.
Yes. Well, and a lot of people are surprised they get up on those ridges and they until they get up on there, they don't realize how much land is up on the ridge and how it kind of, there's some decent slopes for cattle, hay, tobacco when we raised it. So yeah, it's totally different, different environment.
So you grew up in the tobacco era.
I did. We stopped raising tobacco when I entered high school. Because Dad's labor, i.e. the kids, were growing up and moving off. And we didn't have a huge base. We were like a lot of small farms in that area. But I grew up with tobacco in the era where you still pulled plants. So that's how old I am. When I first saw a waterbed with tobacco plants, I'm like, oh my gosh, we could have been doing this.
I think every farm entity has that moment. It's just a matter of what it is. Like for us, this is going to sound so silly. We called it the whole bin. That was where our feed was. And there were 4 of us. So we filled buckets. Like we climbed up on this big pile and it was fun and we raced. And I grew up and found out there's wagons with levers that drop the feed in a flipping bucket for you. And I was like, this is interesting. This showed up when all of your kids left. Like my little brother, who's, you know, everybody knows Daniel at this point on the podcast. When it was just one set of hands, he was like, probably got to do something else. I got to pick up all these dang buckets. So
Absolutely.
every entity has that moment, I think. The labor force is gone. They're like, may want to mechanize.
My kids are getting older, so my husband and I talk about it. We're like, it may be time to invest in some equipment because
and y'all are like vegetables and things too, right?
Yeah, so it's a lot of labor, a lot of labor.
Yeah,
so,
and you get to
a lot
do
of
all of it now.
exercise.
That's what's great.
It's really exciting. It's really exciting. I actually think, you know, produce farms should just market it. You alluded to the CrossFit in a previous episode. Yeah, we should just market it as a health and fitness exercise because lots of squats, lots of
people
aerobic
can pay
activity.
You to come
That's what I'm thinking.
And pick your vegetables.
Do you know they've convinced people that doing yoga with a goat on you is cool? Mm-hmm. Why can't you convince people that those two squash in your hand are dumbbells?
Yeah,
there is the farmer's carry that a lot of fitness people refer to.
You can
and it's basically
do it.
I can hook you up. 5-gallon buckets full of stuff.
You now know the location. You now know the voice. If you're interested in the area, boy, do we have a workout plan for you.
I do have a workout plan for you.
Diversifying your farm, finding new ways to make money. This is the new one. This is the one.
Thank you.
Come and work out.
Come and work out. We've got fence line to clear.
Wink on the farm.
You know, it's the new diversification.
You bet.
That's right.
Okay, so I always we'll get to Farmland transition and probably spend more time than either of us ever realize we're spending on it because it's just
it's a fun topic.
It's a wad of information that you can just go into 17 rabbit holes, and they're all important, and you don't know where to go. But before we get there, I think a lot of people, I would agree with you, know you as, quite frankly, the K-card lady. Yeah. Oh, that's Aleta, the K-card lady. She talked at a meeting I was at. A lot of people, though, until they really get to know you, don't know about your time on the Hill. And so I'm curious, we don't have to dive into exact things you were doing while you were up there, but talk about the differences. I mean, you're Menifee County to D.C.
Oh, gosh.
What a, culture shock. What a difference. I mean, so talk to us about working up there and, kind of how that was.
It was amazing. And I used to pinch myself all the time, you know, thinking about, okay, I grew up on a farm in Menifee County, on a ridge in Menifee County, and I get to go and work on Capitol Hill. I mean, it was on ag policy. I mean, I was like, holy moly, right? And so it was great. It was a real privilege to be able to do that. I think, you know, especially now, government, you know, it doesn't always have the best reputation. Our Capitol Hill doesn't always have, you know, the people don't always love it. And there's a lot of good reasons for that. And people feel like it's out of touch and stuff. But I think working up there, you really do get to see the process unfold. And you get to work with people who seriously, sincerely care about what happens. And they care about what it is they're doing and how it affects people. And that's just so rewarding. I mean, and I was very fortunate. I worked for members who, they really cared about ag. I mean, it was really important to them and their districts. And I worked on the agriculture committee. It was really important to those members to get stuff right. But they just generally cared about doing good. And so, you know, getting to do agriculture policy in that environment, there's nothing like it. You know, you get to see how things, it's kind of like, you know, if you read all the books in the world about farming, but you never spent much time on a farm, you'd have some learning that would have to happen on that farm. And it's the same way with policy. You know, you could read everything about it, but until you get in the middle of it, you're like, oh, so that's how this bill is going to come together. Oh, here's how we got to make this work. Oh, we got to call the agencies. You know, all of those different things. And so, like I said, it was really rewarding.
Yeah, I think that's what's neat. Like we have our congressional tour. It's a glimpse. I mean, you're there for nothing to really see that. But I think a lot of folks, when they don't know that, they don't go up there, they don't see how it works, I think that's just even that little glimpse into the inner workings of it, I think is really important for people to understand, and maybe you will change your tune a little bit about what the government's doing.
I think it gives them perspective. Yeah. Like I met farmers on their very first fly-ins.
Yeah.
And their very first meetings with members. And they would talk to me as staff, and they'd be super nervous and be like, I've never done this before. And of course, I'd be talking to them before we went in to see the member of Congress. And I say, look, he just really wants to hear what's going on in your world. Mm-hmm. Hear from the horse's mouth. Here's what's happening. Here's what's good. Here's what's bad. And what they don't, I think what a lot of people don't realize is that those conversations with members have very long legs. You know, I was on the receiving end of members of Congress. They would run into somebody at the grocery store, and that person would tell them about a crop insurance problem. I would get the call, and they'd be like, we've got this crop insurance problem. And so it was my job to be like, okay, find out, talk more with the person. Is this a big problem? Is this an agency problem? Is this a problem with the law? You know, figure out where the problem was, and then figure out what's the right approach to fixing that problem. And so, you know, they do listen. There's good and bad about it, you know, but it was a great opportunity. Like I said, I used to pinch myself all the time. The very last day when I turned in all my stuff before, you know, we moved back, you know, I walked through under the Capitol Dome by myself with my little staff ID for the last time. And I was like, this is the bomb, you know? So.
What a cool moment. Yeah, and Aleta, she laughs at me all the time about this. Every time, everybody knows I'm more of a farm person. I want to be production side. I want to be on the ground with the guys. I always tell them if I'm doing my job, I'm the middleman. So I hear the crazy verbiage out of D.C. and I make it make sense to farmers or vice versa. I hear the very layman's terms of the ones on the ground, and I try to push it to the right people to make it do other things. But Aleta helps me a lot. When I was in D.C. just a couple weeks ago, when we do federal policy, I get a lot of frustration sometimes with the process or sometimes with the peripheral. And it's incredibly useful, I think, for people to understand that there is reasons and whys. There's some nonsense, but there's really reasons and why in the mix of this process. And so it's helpful for me to have perspective. I think it's helpful for our members to know we've got teams together at a lot of these organizations, whether that's ours, whether that's other commodity groups, that they do go up there. They do work with those people. They have experience, whether that's you, whether that's Erica, different people that have worked on the Hill. It's a perspective until you're in there in the nitty gritty for a few sessions. I can't even imagine feeling like you got the hang of it. So
it takes a while. You know, I remember when I first started, I did not know what I was doing. I mean, because you don't know until you know. And I always told staff once I was managing a ledge office up there, I said, you got to go through a couple of Congresses. You got to get, you know, really see soup to nuts how this process happens. And then when I went to the committee and we worked on the Farm Bill, seeing soup to nuts how that process happens. And, you know, it always takes longer than people think. You know, the process is a process. But I always try to remind people, too, that our government, it was designed to be kind of slow. It was designed to be sometimes an annoying process because that's what prevents bad things from happening quickly. And so, you know, that's the great thing about, you know, what we have as a country and what we have in place is we've got all these checks and balances. We've got, you know, this process that's cumbersome at times. But the whole goal is so that you really do keep, you know, the good ideas happening and keep the bad ideas not happening.
Yeah.
So why come back? Why come back to Kentucky?
Yeah, well, there was no question. My husband and I both grew up in Kentucky as farm kids. We met at an Ag Econ class at UK, which is the most romantic environment. So, you know, we always knew we were going to come back. He was working in ag retail in Northern Virginia. We got to the point, we hit that, it was almost the 10-year mark. And we were like, it's time. You know, we always knew we'd come back. It was just a question of time. And the kids were young. And so we really wanted to be back closer to home. We wanted to be back close to our parents and to the farms that we grew up on. And so yeah, there's just no question.
It's one of my favorite quotes. If you've ever met a Kentuckian what is it? If you're far away and you've met a Kentuckian and they don't say they're missing home, then they're not really a Kentuckian or something.
Yeah.
They're always planning to get back
They're
home or
always
something.
planning to get
I
back.
know.
And there's a big piece in Frankfurt, actually. It used to be on a big wall up there, because when I worked there, I took that picture when I moved back from Mississippi, and a lot of my Mississippi counterparts laughed, and they were like, man, if that's not the truth, there's something about you Kentuckians. It's just something about home.
Yeah, but my daughter is one of these, like, will live in Australia. She wants to go, get away. And I'm like, we'll see.
Right. Well, I always wanted to. My mom, she used to make. I was the youngest, and I always wanted to be close to home, and that kind of thing. And I'd traveled and done all this stuff, and then moved to DC for a while. But then it was always like, okay, when we coming back? Because we were always coming back for every holiday, for anything that happened, and then finally it's time.
So for our listeners, why were you picked as the person that's going to help us run this farmland transition? What is some of your background that can help explain kind of why you were probably the right person to help us kind of navigate, manage through this idea?
Well, a lot of things. I think, one, I was very fortunate to, I think some things it's right place, right time. But I think throughout my career, I look at this transition initiative as sort of being a culmination of a lot of different pieces of what I've been working on. So I worked on policy for 10 years, grew up on a family farm, and worked with K-Card with ag businesses and what they were doing with succession and all the challenges, and worked on their financials, which so much of this is financial. And so I think, when the leadership team came together and identified this as a priority, I had worked with Eddie Melton when he was my board chair at K-Card. And we used to talk about farm transition and succession planning as being a real need. And that, we just didn't have enough resources to focus on it. And so it seemed like a natural fit when we, came together. And at that time, I had left K-Card, and also I had gone through my own farm transition because my parents had passed. And so it was very fresh with me of, oh my gosh, this is what families are dealing with. How can we help farm families navigate this in a better way? And so it was kind of like an alignment of planets that came together for me to be able to work on this. So.
And I'm not asking you to tell your story in any detail. That's not what I'm going to ask. But I do think when we give a lot of talks, and so Aleta gives a lot of talks, but I cover some in kind of those peripheral times when we're double booked and things like that. And I gave one last night in Rockcastle, and I think it's very interesting. And yes, I'm young, obviously. I'm 31, but I think people think because we do these trainings, these talks, that we already have everything set up and we have things correct. And so there's a piece in one of our presentations where it's kind of a breakdown like, hey, do you know if something happened to you tomorrow, are your bank accounts ready, or, different things, or your goals lined up? And then we make them do that activity, and then we put ours up there. So I have my set and Aleta has her set. And I always see people kind of click like, oh, like, so you don't have it done, and you're just 31. You don't have kids involved, and you don't have all your stuff done. I think it makes them understand we're not just saying this is a mountain to take on. We're living it. And so I do always think your story, whether in detail or not, of, hey, I just went through this and I didn't have it ready, and I do have all this experience and I knew better. But your parents are your parents, or your grandparents, or your uncle. Just because you know better doesn't mean you, A, have your stuff correct, or B, that your whole family has it figured out. So this is why we got to talk about it. This is why we have to work on it. I think that relatability is a piece. It's hard for you to say that about yourself, maybe, but I think that's a huge piece of why our leadership team saw you as a good fit of, hey, she's not going to walk in and be like, well, I just went through this and we had everything perfect, so I'm going to teach you how to do what I did.
I'm going to talk down to you.
Yeah, let me explain how you can be better. Yep. It's not that route at all.
It's so not. And I honestly, I don't trust people who say they have all the answers on this stuff, because I've met some amazingly smart people who work on this stuff all the time, and they are humble about the situations that they're presented with, because human beings are human beings.
Yeah.
Right. And what we're talking about are challenging land dynamics, family dynamics, all sorts of things. And so, yeah, I think, one of the best events that you and I did together, Renee, was I think it was at the women's conference, wasn't it? And we're at different points in our lives, right? And so we're hitting different perspectives. But what was cool was we did share, okay, here's the things we need to work on ourselves, and here's how we need to approach it. And I do think there was some light bulbs. Oh, okay, we're kind of all in this together. That's what I want people to understand. We're all in this together. None of us have everything perfect. And even if we did, a year from now, our family situation might change, and we might need to change things, right? Or our financial situation would change, all of those kind of things. And so I do think that's important to, bring that reality home, because it's a challenge. It's a challenge to work through these issues.
So talk to people, and I know it's so funny. That was one of the things I've really learned in this initiative is understanding that repetition's not a bad thing. We laugh about it. I feel like I say the same thing. I'll feel like I say it 3 nights in a row, and I'm like, these guys have got to be tired of me hearing this. And then I'll see some in the room that kind of peek up, like, oh, I've never heard that before. So I will make you do the same repetitive thing we've always done. Okay, what is that 3-prong approach we kind of went at when we started this initiative? It'll be 2 years in April, which is wild. Talk to me about what was the 3-prong approach for you going into it from leadership, and kind of how have you tackled that as maybe the coordinator of it?
Yeah. And so when we first started talking about the initiative, it was a real question of, okay, what will work? Because I think what was so great about it is no one around the table was like, let's just do this for, because we don't have anything to do. It was, let's do this for a result. Let's actually make a dent in the challenge here, in the problem. And so we really, we spent a lot of time looking at what other states were doing, looking at what was going on in this state, all that. And we came up with, 3 ways that we wanted to address the issue. One is really education and public awareness. We want people to know about the challenge of farmland loss, and we want people to know that there are resources out there if they want to address those issues, either on a broader scale, but then also within their own family, with their own farm. And so we launched the website, kyfarmlandtransition.com. And we put resources on there. We go to lots of meetings and talk to thousands of people about this issue, which I love. And so that was one major piece. The second major piece was really to connect up, both to connect people up with resource providers that can help them. So lawyers, CPAs, financial planners, estate planners, those folks. But then also to connect up with other ag organizations, which Renee's done amazing work on this, to connect up 28 organizations in Kentucky who, if you're doing ag, you should be caring about land loss. I'm sorry, there's no escaping the fact that the number one asset on our balance sheet is farmland. And so we've got to be focusing on it. And I'm so thrilled that the number of organizations joined the effort, formed the KFTI network, to really say, okay, this is important. We're going to spend resources on this with regards to time and sharing information. And most importantly, we're also going to give feedback. So, we can go to them and say, hey, what do you think about this? And they can go, this would hit my membership this way, or that kind of thing. And then finally, the third part really is policy, looking at what policies in place that encourages land to stay in production, what policy changes need to be made, how can those be made, obviously looking at, avoiding unintended consequences with any policy change, but looking both at the state and federal level to figure out what we can do. So,
yeah, it's got to be tough. One thing that, when this became an initiative, it was interesting as a person that interviews so many farmers, how much, I guess I just wasn't hearing them say this problem. And then all of a sudden we started hearing it. I mean, I think even on the podcast, we didn't even poke it out of these folks, and they would start talking about transitioning and the emotion around it all and all these things, and just it became very clear to me. It's like, wow, this is as just a guy who works at Farm Bureau, I just didn't notice this. And I think just what's been cool about the initiative is just frankly the awareness of it and the thinking of it and talking about it out loud, pointing at stuff that already exists. I think is a big thing. It's like there's a lot of stuff that it's already right there for you to have. But I think a big thing about it is that awareness, right? I mean, to tell people you might want to think about this. Like my dad passed away this year, and he didn't own a farm. He didn't know, and just the little bit of property and the emotion behind every single thing we've had to decide. I can't even imagine having to deal with that at a farm level. So I think that's been the biggest thing, don't you think? It's just that talking about it and getting people rallied around it because each situation's so unique.
It is.
That's a good way to start, but it might be very different depending on the farm, right?
It really is. And I think the most important thing, one, is just taking this on as this is what we do. When we take care of our farms and we take care of our families, we're going to plan out what's going to happen in the future.
Yeah.
It's just what we're going to do. And I think reinforcing that message.
Yeah.
Also reinforcing the message that if we do that, then we may be able to keep more land in the hands of active farmers.
Yeah.
And we want to see that happen.
Yeah.
If our rural communities lose that population of farmers, that's a real detriment to those communities and to our state. So I think really helping people understand, yes, this is just something we're going to do. This is a challenge we all face. There are resources out there to help you navigate that. And I take calls all the time from folks that are like, here's my situation. What do you think who do you think I should be talking to as far as the next expert to talk to, like an attorney, that kind of thing? And then what are the questions? And so a lot of times what I do is spend time helping them understand what questions are the right questions for their situation and helping them think about and I will try to mention different ways, different situations they could consider that I know from other farms that they could consider for their own situation. But yeah, it's a real challenge.
Yeah, we said the very beginning we announced the initiative, and if you were not in the inner workings of a lot of Farm Bureau meetings, like just people out in the state that maybe just our general membership, they were like, man, we didn't hear a lot from you for a minute. And I was like, that's because we were wanting to hear from you. And we did. We spent, 2-3 months just asking, all right, give me the good, the bad, and the ugly. And we laugh and say, we were really good at getting the bad and the ugly, but the good was really hard to find. And we talk about this all the time. Farmers are humble. Farmers don't want to talk about themselves, but you want to help people not fall in the same pitfall you did. So they quickly wanted to tell you if something really tough had happened to them, their neighbor, their grandma, but they were not going to quickly come up and brag and be like, man, we're on the 6th generation and we're rocking and rolling. Let me tell you how we did it.
How'd you do that?
And so we had to kind of pry those guys off that back wall in the meeting and be like, no, we need it. We're yearning for this. We got to know some of the good to where this can be productive. What if we accidentally change something you have been doing and that's been working and we didn't know? So we tweaked. And so I think that's been really, really useful. And then I tell people, we always start our meetings, I'm not an attorney. I'm not an accountant. I'm not an estate planner, but I am going to help you start a conversation. I'm going to connect you with the right people. And I think Aleta hits that dead on. These phone calls she takes, and she takes a lot of them because she's working with a lot of these people. A lot of times she's like, I'd say she's like the talking Google sometimes for these people. If they're not comfortable to Google 40 pages or they don't know who to trust, they'll trust that she can give them some terms to start working on. And that's what they take the next step. I think it's very important.
I do. And I think about my own parents, they had done some planning. But I think, my dad, and I talk about this at some meetings, I don't think his idea of a good time was ever to spend time in a lawyer's office. Yeah. Right? I don't think he was ever like, oh, yay, let's go visit an attorney.
That's what I'm doing this weekend. Hanging out with attorneys. Oh, no.
It's a good time.
It's a really good time.
And nothing against our attorneys. We love them. But, it's just most farmers are not like, yay, let's go spend time with the attorney. So I get it. But that's, and so my hope is that we can really reduce some of the factor of, oh man, I don't even know quite what to say to this attorney, or my situation is so unique, I'm not sure what they would do. Yes, it's unique, but there's going to be a path forward to figure out what you need to do.
So we talked about a lot about what we've been doing, but I want to give you a chance, and we don't have to dive hard, but I think a lot of people are saying, okay, we've been doing this for a while. What's some wins? What have we done right? What's been good? And as we have said from the get-go, and I think Eddie, President Melton's the first one that says this, is if there was a silver bullet, we'd have done this 30 years ago. It's a very shotgun approach. We're trying to hit this thing from a lot of angles and starting kind of ticking away at this big mountain and turn it into a hill. But do us a favor and tell us, all right, it's been over a year and a half. What's some good things we've gotten out of this initiative so far?
Well, I think one of the best things has been the number of people that we have talked to and the number of people who know that this is an issue now and know that there's resources out there. We get meeting requests all the time from different groups, who want to focus on this issue. We have an awareness in Kentucky right now of how much land we're losing and the implications of that. And I think that's tremendous. I think, too, and it's connected to that, is we've got a lot of organizations who, they're sending people to us, or, we're communicating with them, and they know this is a priority, that this is really important. And I think that's great. Obviously, policy. I think it has been, having come from the policy world, it's very hard to get policy wins quickly. The churning takes a while, right? And the fact that we've been able to get some positive changes to the selling farmer tax credit in Kentucky, which for anyone listening who doesn't know, that's, if you do sell your land to an active farmer, then you're eligible for that tax credit. We were able to get some positive changes on that. And I think that is just tremendous. I've heard from folks who said, one, the credit's being used more and it worked better for their situation. We're really hoping to see that continue. And then two, the federal policy change, where we were able to get the first provision in the federal tax code that gives an advantage for someone who is going to sell that land asset to an active farmer. And we'd love to see that improve. We'd love to see more changes in that space. But to me, those are the big wins. Because when we were talking to people, that was one of the things that they were like, okay, what would help in this situation? Yes, we want the resources. Yes, the technical assistance is important. But we also have to look at what our policy structure is. Mm-hmm. And so looking at that capital gains rate and figuring out how we could do more than that is certainly on our radar. So,
yeah, I mean, I think that speaking to, someone that doesn't quite understand what's the capital gains, explain that a little bit to, if we got a non-farmer on here, what do you mean, and how is it, just use an example of like how impactful that really is. People don't quite get how much money we're talking about and the help that this does.
Well, I'm so glad you've decided to spend the podcast on tax policy. Thank you, because everyone just now went to sleep. But no, I love it.
They're going to listen to this right after they hang out with their attorney. We've got them a whole weekend of plans.
I try to explain this to some of my folks that just don't understand it, and I think I did it all right. But just speaking.
So let's say I'm a farmer, which I am, but let's say I'm an older farmer. When I pass away, if I leave land in my estate, then it's going to go to the heirs with what's called stepped-up basis. And so basically they inherit it at the value of that time of passing. Okay, so they would not own capital gains if they then sold it. Okay, and so what that does is it creates an incentive, and stepped-up basis is great. It creates a way for people to pass on assets like farmland, so that you wouldn't have to sell it if you to pay the capital gains.
Right.
The challenge, though, is that creates a real incentive in the tax code then just to hold on to that land to get that stepped-up basis when you probably have people who want to be farming the land and could take on that ownership. And so and you would be willing to sell it to them. But for that big tax hit that you would get, because you would have to pay capital gains taxes on what the difference between what the land's worth versus when you got it.
Right.
And so what we've worked on is, if you do sell that land to an active farmer who agrees to keep it in production, then can we get a break on that capital gains so that it makes the decision to go ahead and sell it when you could honestly use the cash more than you really want to have the land in your possession. And so if you do that and you sell it to an active farmer now under the current law, under the changes that were just passed in July, and that person agrees to keep it in production, then instead of being hit with an immediate capital gains tax hit that could be 20%, then, and could be hundreds of thousands of dollars given where land prices are, then you're going to be able to at least stage that payment over a period of time, so you could take that money that you would be paying to the federal government, put it in an interest-bearing account, put it in an investment account, allow it to grow some so that you can pay that tax over time.
Yeah.
And so the idea behind it really is, how do we get an efficient transfer of land to somebody who's still going to keep it as farmland, who is an active farmer, as opposed to, somebody feeling like they have to hold on to it. It goes through their estate. And many times what we see happen is it goes through their estate and it's ends up not staying farmland.
Yeah.
So
I think a very important piece for people to understand that I needed to learn in this process, as I have said very heavily a million times, I'm not a lobbyist and I don't get all this stuff. But what I have told people that I have learned in this process, watching the difficulty of getting this in, the history behind the fact that nothing like this has happened connected to capital gains, but connected to keeping something in production agriculture. We have not seen that as far back as we've looked so far. And so if it's there, maybe it's way back there, but Aleta and a lot of our team have done a lot of look back. I think people need to understand how big of a win that is, because that first step means that people are listening. They do hear you when you're sitting across from them. They understand there's an issue. Is it every single thing we ask for? No, you got to shoot for the moon sometimes and you land where you land, but we got in. And there is something tied to keeping land in production agriculture. And we've never seen that before. So I think, just like Aleta said, it's hard to, we're a quick society. We want answers quick. We want solutions quick. This was a big win in the sense that this got started. And now we're in the room. We're already in there. And we can say, okay, this is who's utilizing it now, but these are how many more could, or this is how many more acres. We can start playing those numbers where before we didn't have that opportunity. So it's a really big win. It was a challenge. If anybody knows anything about government, I think we're recording while the government is currently in a shutdown. I mean, the government's not easy at any time, and this one's a tough one, but it was a huge opportunity and a big win. And you're right, Matt. It's hard to wrap your head around it if you don't have acreage and things that you're looking at this on, but once you kind of see the numbers on paper, we kind of go through a step-by-step on our presentations, and it's really not a very big farm. We do the little game on, and people are like, whoa, when they see that tax hit. And a lot of times it's people that are not the ones farming. It's somebody that's in there, and they're like, oh, my gosh. So it is a big win.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it's a win that only would have happened because we have farmers at the center of the conversation. Like, I think there's been so much good done on farmland preservation over time. But I think what's unique about this initiative and what really, I think, benefits the policy angle is we're talking to farmers. Farmers are at the base of, all right, what policy changes really would make a difference here? What how can we address these thorny issues? And so if we can get a foot in the door, like with this capital gains, deferring that tax over a 4-year period, which is what's in the law now, what can we do next to help people further? Yeah.
All right. Well, shameless plug, because you get to help me do this every year. Now, this is our second consecutive year having a farmland transition breakout. If you have not been to the KFB annual meeting, I stole the big stage in the morning. So we take Ballroom A and we have now turned it into a breakout. So if you're ever used to going to that UK Ag Econ Outlook, I snag that room ahead of those guys. And I tell them I'm filling it early for them. That's what we're doing. But we've got a farmland transition breakout session there where we're going to have a panel again, but it's different panelists. So Aleta, you really kind of spearheaded who we were going to put on this. And you're going to, thankfully, you're going to moderate for us again while I'm running an iPad with some texting questions. So if you don't care, tell us maybe who our panelists are and maybe some of the excitement around the idea of having a panel.
I think it's so great to do this panel. And I was excited about last year, and I'm even more excited about this year. And we're really focusing on some real concrete issues with the panel this year, hoping to get some good audience questions. First off, we've got Misty Van Treese, who works with Kentucky Elder Law. She is an attorney that really focuses on a lot of those elder law kind of issues and has experience working with different folks and with farm estates. And we get a lot of questions in related to Medicaid, nursing homes, and those kind of things. That's a real concern from folks. So we're excited to have her joining us. We have Tori Wood from the Cabinet for Economic Development. She's going to be talking about the Selling Farmer Tax Credit, which is the state tax credit that I just referenced. There's been changes to it. She's going to be able to update us on where we're at with that credit and also hopefully give some advice to folks who could be eligible for it, how they can best position their application, because it does require an application process. And then we're going to have Spencer Gwynn from Kentucky Center for Ag and Rural Development, and he's going to be talking about how K-Card's services have expanded to really help family farms with their transition planning and what that looks like. So he's going to be able to cover that and what people can expect if they're going to be working with KCARD on these issues.
Very cool. Yeah, I thought it was great. It had a huge, that part of the annual meeting's a little sleepy. That kind of the event starting to get going. And,
There's breakfast across the hall. It's tough to pull people from a free breakfast.
I know.
But it was well attended, and I think a really neat piece, neat addition to the annual meeting.
One change we are going to do, and some of these, I always say, whoever I think wants a microphone when it comes to farmland transition, sometimes they don't, and they want to send a text in. So that was some of the feedback my team got last year. We had so many text in questions that we didn't have a need to roam the mics. And I had some guys say, oh, well, me and a couple of my buddies were sitting there, and I had said, oh, I'll ask the question kind of for our group. And then we never got a chance with the mic. And they weren't upset, but they were just like, in the future, if you don't care. So we actually decided this year we will do every other. So we'll have a couple set questions kind of to get our panelists kicked off and comfortable. And then we're going to have that text in option in case you don't want to stand up and put a whole lot out there, but we'll have a roaming mic as well. Our big thing is we've only got 50 minutes. And so I always tell people what I don't have time for is your story, but I have time for your questions. So what I want with your story is if you've got a specific situation in a story, come to our breakout room. We're going to be in the brown room this year, and I'll have those panelists in there for different amounts of time during the day, and you can have some one-on-one with us to be able to talk through that. So if you've got a really incredible story and you're like, man, this is the one I want everybody to know about, come tell us and let us find the right way to share that. Let us find the right way to help you through some things. Yeah. But let's get those big kind of main questions, the short and sweet, so we can get more people in. We got 50 minutes and we want to hammer all the info we can in that time frame. But I'm pretty pumped up about it. You guys know me. If I can get farmers in the room and them to tell their own questions, their own stories, and the right people up there that those farmers are going to start familiarizing themselves with their faces, I think that's just an incredible experience. That's kind of what annual meeting's all about, in my opinion.
Right.
I think it'll be great. I love the breakout room afterwards where people can have the longer conversation. They can talk to the panelists one-on-one. They can get their contact info. We'll have handouts there. That would be good resources for people to have. And we had really a great turnout last year with people who came by with their own situations, talked to folks, got their contact info, and hopefully followed up. But no, I think it's a great opportunity to hear what's on people's minds. And, the biggest challenge for me is always we only have 50 minutes in trying to get to as many questions as possible. That's tough.
So plug it again. What's the website? Where can people get kind of engaged in this? Contact anyone involved? Where can they get all that information?
So the website is kyfarmlandtransition.com. On that website, you'll find a lot of resources that you can use as a landowner, as a farmer. You will also find contact information for me, and there's a web contact form. If you want to just fill it out through that website, it's going to come in, and then I can get back with you. I typically try to do a phone call after that conversation, or after I get in that information, so I can learn more. Hopefully get you the resources you want, like if there's a specific question you have. And so that's the first place I would start is that website, because we're trying. There's so much on there. The internet is amazing and also just a mess. Mm-hmm. So we really try to curate.
Really?
I know that's shocker, right? And so we really try to curate the resources that I think really hit the mark.
Right.
And I also listen to what people tell me, and they'll be like, oh, Aleta, that one thing you sent me, that was really good. And I'm like, okay, good to know. Other stuff, if it's not written to where I can understand it, I'm typically not going to include it, because I'm like, we've got to reach people where they're at and get them stuff that answers their question.
Mm-hmm. So. Yeah.
Well, perfect. Well, we could talk all day, but we will save you guys from more tax law. We'll give you a break, maybe next time. No, but thank you, Aleta. I know it's a little bit of a drive in, and we normally get a little double dose of it. We'll get meetings in, and while we get you up here, but appreciate you coming in. Appreciate you talking about this, and obviously appreciate your work on it. It is. I tell people all the time, it is one of the most personal initiatives. Whether you think it's going to be that way before you start or not, it turns into a very personal conversation very quick, and it takes the right kind of people to be able to do that. So we appreciate you agreeing to be that person for us. So thank you for what you do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Aleta, and thank you, listeners. Be sure to subscribe and listen to all our other episodes, and we'll see you next time on Let's Get Rural.